show. This is episode 18 of the Life of Gaming podcast. My name is Jamie, and I am the captain on this cruise of video game awesomeness. And you all know my co-host, the Falco to my Fox, Mr. Josh Brandt.
Hello there, sir.
How you doing today, sir?
Falco was the best Super Smash Brothers Melee person. I won my championship
there you
with
go,
him.
Falco Lombardi, right?
Yes. The great Falco Lombardi.
Hey, we're getting pretty high in numbers, man. We're almost to 20. That is crazy. We just
That
started
is
in
amazing.
February.
Yes.
But, people keep listening, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. We're not having that dip yet, so we're good.
Right. So what's going on with you, man? Anything new and exciting?
Oh, not much. I can't wait to get that 2 terabyte hard drive into my PS4.
Oh, that's right. You need the
man,
space,
dude.
man.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm to the point now where there's like a single update and it can't download because I don't have enough space. I'm like trying to find ways to delete stuff and then add new stuff, and so can't come soon enough. I should have it Monday, so then I can finally get this stuff in.
Awesome. Yeah, for me, I actually just got a 2 terabyte hard drive for my Xbox One because I was having the same problem that you were having. I was going to have to delete a bunch of stuff. And I'm thinking, I really hope the cloud keeps my saves because I'm going to lose a bunch of stuff. But it was really nice to get that 2 terabyte external hard drive hooked up. That was actually a birthday present from my wife. That's coming up. I'm getting old, man. I'm hitting the big 3-0.
Big 3-0. We're all hitting the big
old
3-0.
man. Well,
grumpy old men.
To introduce our other co-host on the show, he's been helping out with our YouTube page. I've been seeing more Donkey Kong Country videos up recently. My brother-in-law, the, peppy hair of our group, Matt.
You made me the bunny.
That's right.
Do a barrel roll.
Well, Peppy wears glasses,
you did it,
right?
Fox.
And you've got glasses, so that works out pretty well, right?
That's true.
So what's going on with you, man? Anything new and exciting?
Oh, not too much. Enjoying my summer, just kind of doing normal housework. There's some crazy thunderstorms and tornado drill the other day.
Oh my gosh, these storms have been crazy.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah,
Not
it's
as
like
bad
the
as another
apocalypse
place.
is coming.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, for us, it was like 11:30 at night, and all of a sudden the tornado sirens start going off, and they're blaring in our house. And so my wife, Brittany, and I, we get up, we get out of bed, turn on the TV in the living room, like, well, what's going on? And we're watching TV, and lightning strikes, and boom, everything goes out.
Oh,
and I'm like,
shoot.
oh no! And then my wife goes, but the stuff in the kitchen's still on. I'm thinking, oh no! I think my entertainment center got zapped. I'm like, that's gonna be
geez.
it.
What would you do?
If I lose all that, I'm like, oh no! So thankfully, it was just a surge protector. So I'm pretty happy about that. Got a new surge protector, plugged everything in. We are back in business.
That's what it's there for.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy it worked because otherwise I would lose my TV and my Xbox, my Wii U, and like all that stuff hooked up. Just lose it all. That would be a definite problem.
If not, at least you know somebody in insurance.
Right.
That's true. Yep.
But thankfully everything works. But guys, welcome to the show. This is the Life of Gaming podcast, and we are actually in the middle of our summer game series right now. We're actually on episode 4. Previous episodes, we just talked about Final Fantasy, and we talked about Metroid, and we talked about Uncharted. But this episode, we're actually going to be talking about Star Fox. And, I'm pretty excited about this. This is actually one of my favorite series from Nintendo. I've enjoyed every Star Fox game. But also as part of the show, of the Life of Gaming, we like to, have guests on the show to talk about what they're doing, whether it's, making YouTube pages or, writing for sites or, all that kind of stuff. And this week, our guest is Ryan Bremigan from the Digital Nerd Advocate. I know you go by Bremy, so Bremy, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty
Bremy.
good. How are you guys?
Doing great,
Good.
sir.
Great.
You can be our honorary Slippy for the night.
Oh, geez, thanks.
I
problem.
was waiting for Slippy to go to somebody's.
I see you guys just don't care about me. That's fine.
But before we get started and start talking about all this game stuff, let the listeners know a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'm a writer for DNA, and I've done the opinion piece on Star Fox. I've written a review or two for, I think, Sunset Overdrive and Splatoon, and I'm currently in the middle of an Earthbound series retrospective.
Awesome.
And
Sweet.
I haven't been able to write much because of personal things, but as soon as they all get figured out, I'll have everything up and running.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. And I mean, so you've been enjoying writing over there, so that's awesome. Sounds like you're making a lot of good content over there, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I know it's kind of the last minute, but thanks for hopping on here with us tonight.
It's no
I'm
problem.
glad you're not Crystal and you're Slippy. 'Cause being Crystal would be horrible.
That's right. That would be the
Crystal.
other option.
She's not too bad. She's
Right,
not too bad.
right.
She's better than Slippy.
Well,
I thought they had me, Fox.
thank you for that, sir.
Yeah.
Well,
Now you'll be haunted in your nightmares forever.
well, I mean, if you want to be Slippy, sir, you can be Slippy. That's totally fine by me.
There we go.
Well, with that, guys, we're going to hop into our news section and what we like to call Captain's Log. Okay, guys, with the news section this week, we're actually going to start off with our Nintendo news this week. Some sad things happened on July 11th. We just found out that Satoru Iwata, the president of Nintendo, had passed away. It was actually a shock to pretty much everybody in the gaming industry. At E3 2014, he didn't show up to that. He had to have surgery, something wrong on his bile duct, I think is what they said it was. Yeah. But after that, they said he had it under control. He didn't show up at this year's E3, but that's just because he said he had to stay in Japan to work on some things. But apparently, it was a lot worse than what he had let on. But he actually did some awesome things for Nintendo. Just, a kind of like a brief history of some of the things he'd done. He actually started off at HAL Labs, the company that makes, Smash Brothers and things like that. He worked on Earthbound. He actually, with Earthbound, the funny thing with that game, I know that, Brem, you were talking about Earthbound, and Matt, I know you're a big fan of Earthbound. They were actually working on that game, and they couldn't get the coding right. And so what he did, he came in and said, okay, here's what I can do. I can work with what you guys already have. It'll take about 2 years to finish. Or I can completely redo this code from scratch and do it in a year and a half. So pretty much what they did, they had him rewrite the entire Earthbound code, and they still made launch day.
That's amazing.
I know. And they
That
actually
is insane.
I know. And they actually brought him in to work on other games like Pokemon Gold and Silver. Those games, it wasn't fitting on the cartridge. And what he did, he went in and compressed that game so much they were able to fit the section from the first game. Because after you beat Gold and Silver, you can go back to like the original where Red and Blue take place. Yeah. That actually wasn't on the game. He compressed Gold and Silver so much they were able to fit a whole nother game on that cartridge.
This is a coding genius.
Yeah, I mean, they brought this guy in to do all sorts of stuff. He actually worked on Smash Brothers, the original Smash Brothers. He didn't take any credit for it. He worked on the weekends. This was the time when he was already president of HAL, because he actually started HAL as a coder, and then he became the president of HAL. And while he was president, he was still doing coding on the side just because he loved making games. So,
there was a famous quote where he said, you know me as the president of Nintendo, but he says something like, I'm a game developer in my mind, but at my heart, I'm a true gamer.
Yeah.
It's something like that. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, and one thing you can tell with Satoru Iwata is that he like I said, he was a gamer. He just loved to game. And he had this curiosity where he always wanted to know how games were being made. Because later in his career, when he became president of Nintendo, he actually made that Iwata Ask series. And, he let us behind the curtain to get to know how these games were being made. And I just, reading those interviews, you could just tell you could read his excitement of just him wanting to know how these games were done. And he liked to see the back end of how things were done. So even when he was president, he was still helping code on things, and he just didn't want to take any credit for it.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate the way people responded, because normally online, if you ever see comments or forums or anything, people are just brutal, and especially in our industry as well as all other industries. And I appreciated that I saw most people pay their respects at least. And I felt bad for him the last few years, how when it first came out that it wasn't going to go to E3 a couple of years ago, people were horrible online. to that. And I mean, now we see why, but at least people responded respectfully to this.
And I heard that, well, I just kind of thought about it, and then I read online that someone confirmed it, but like the last public like anything that he said was that apology for E3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I know it's just such a sad
they were hit
note
hard
to
with
end on.
that.
Yeah. But if you look at his career, though, I mean, he was president during the most successful time Nintendo's ever had. He just started becoming president it was like the tail end of the GameCube. So for the Wii and the DS, the two most successful systems Nintendo's ever had, he was the president for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
he's been there for the highs and lows.
Exactly. I mean, and I think the stress from the Wii U and how bad it was doing and the push from the shareholders and all that, I mean, that couldn't have made things any easier for him.
Right.
Yeah.
From what I hear, the bile duct problem that he had, it was basically like eating him from the inside out.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The what it sounded was like really horrendous. So, I mean, it's terrible that this happened, but in some ways, maybe, maybe he doesn't have any pain anymore.
Sure, he's not suffering, yeah.
Yeah, he's not suffering.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you could tell just from the Nintendo Directs and things like that after his first surgery, he was losing so much weight so fast. He just looked so much skinnier.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's one thing that I'll always remember. Like, the Nintendo Directs without him are going to be so much different because he made those. I mean, the directly to you stuff like that. He made all that happen, and it's going to be, Nintendo's going to be a very different world. I mean, they haven't really said who's taking over. I know they said Miyamoto and one other guy, I can't remember who it is. They're sort of just helping run the company until they find a replacement. So I don't know if one of them are going to take over as president. I have no idea. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whatever they're getting into with this mobile is actually going to make them a good amount of money because they're smart about how they approach game creation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it all goes.
Sure. I mean, one thing we all can agree on, though, I mean, the work he did for Nintendo, his love of games, I mean, he had some hard times with people, giving a hard time about the way the Wii U went and, not getting on mobile soon enough and things like that. But what he's contributed to the industry, like I said, just teaching younger people how to code and compress those games and make all that happen, like Nintendo wouldn't be what it is today without him. So
if other, people who made third-party games or games for Microsoft and Sony, if they knew how to compress things like Nintendo does with his leadership, then we wouldn't have to have
50 gig downloads or installs.
Yeah, 50 gig downloads or super powerful systems to run them at 1080p. Like, you'd be able to get away with a Wii U powered system and make some amazing things, but nobody knows how to code as well as people at Nintendo.
Sure.
There's no doubt his impact in the gaming industry was astronomical.
Sure.
So,
and
our condolences with the family.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Absolutely.
And we'll just end on his quote that he had when he first started making the Wii and what he wanted to do as president. He said, "Video games are supposed to be one thing, and that's fun for everyone." I mean, that was his goal. I mean, that's why he made the Wii. He wanted to reach a wider audience. He wanted everybody to enjoy this great hobby we love. That's why he made the Wii. That's why he wanted to try to bring casuals in. So the world wouldn't be the same without Nintendo, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But real quick, to stick on our Nintendo news while we're here, Devil's Third, that was a game that was announced at E3 2014. It was a game that was being made by THQ, and at the time, THQ fell apart. It was going to be made for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Well, in E3 2014, Nintendo came out and said, we are going to have this as an exclusive. We're going to pay to, revive this game. We're going to bring it back. And Tomonobu Itagaki, the guy he makes Ninja Gaiden, he's the one making this game. This is going to be huge. This game is going to be great.
Game of the year.
Exactly. I mean, and they were talking about how great this game was going to be. And what happened, it kind of disappeared off the radar. We saw a trailer for it. We had a little bit of information back at E3 2014, and then we heard nothing. Since then, they actually came out and had a release day of, I'm trying to remember what it was. It's August. for, I think it's like August 28th, something like that. It's coming out in Europe and Japan, but no American release date was announced. And so people in America are like, are they just going to push this under the rug? Is it not going to get an American release? And Nintendo didn't really respond. And then they came out and said, oh, it's coming to America. But now they're assuming that Nintendo's probably not going to publish it in America. And a lot of the press that's coming out from the previews of this game saying it's just not very good. Well, recently, Itagaki came out on his Facebook page and he was talking about Devil's Third. And it was some really weird comments because it almost sounded like he didn't even support the game himself. and so he came out and said, you should not play this game with the Wii U gamepad. This game is not made for the Wii U gamepad. You have to play it with the Pro Controller. Just to quote him from his Facebook page, this is what he said. I never want to discount standard tab controller, but Devil's Third is a super speedy game. So the gamepad has the following disadvantages. 4 face buttons are positioned to be overcrowded, so you easily press the wrong button. In that case, you will die. The distance of the 2 analog sticks are too far apart, so it's quite difficult to feel and grasp the battlefield. Devil's Third is a game you will play for a long time. The standard gamepad is too heavy for such use. He came out and said, if you want to play this game the right way, you have to use the Pro Controller. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy yourself. And then on top of that, preview builds are going out, or, early review copies are going out since it's coming out in August, and they're sending them out to websites. And about the multiplayer that's coming out, he kind of gave a warning to game reviewers and companies. He said, the multiplayer mode in Devil's Third is designed to be played with tens of thousands of players. We understand it's going to be a very tough job to evaluate such a game. It will be much appreciated if you use your imagination to get the depth when you play the multiplayer. Just imagine how great this game is going to be.
If you have to explain that much.
No, I read your article, and like after I read it, I looked at the gamepad.
Yeah.
And it feels exactly the way the Pro Controller feels.
Sure.
I don't feel any difference in that. And then I thought to myself, Bayonetta 2 worked perfectly
exactly
with the gamepad. Why would this game be any different?
Just to throw this out there real quick, like Bernie was mentioning, this article I actually wrote for theworkprint.com. So head over to theworkprint.com. I've actually been throwing a couple articles up over there. So you might see my face pop up over there every once in a while. So make sure to check that out.
Your ugly mug on?
Right.
Can't go there.
Well, hey, Matt, what do you think about this game? Because I know you've never really played Bayonetta or any of those fast-paced action games. Have you had any interest in Devil's Third since it was announced?
I mean, when they first announced it at E3, was it 2014?
Yeah.
I remember they announced it as an IGN exclusive. It wasn't announced during the presentation. It was right afterwards, and they had the Nintendo Treehouse thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching IGN, and it said it was going to be a new Wii U exclusive or whatever, and it turned out to be this game, and I think it was Damon Hatfield, and then they were looking at it. It looked, I don't know, it looked like that kind of Platinum game style thing, but even they said at the time, it looked like it wasn't well done.
Sure.
And obviously it was early in development, so I didn't think much of it. It's not my type of game normally. I actually really want to play Bayonetta because it's crazy action and stuff, and it seems well polished. But Devil's Third, the whole look of the characters and stuff is just not really my type of game. And so, but I do wonder about the multiplayer. If they're saying imagine it, and it's supposed to be with tens of thousands of players, I wonder if it's like a giant arena or a Grand Theft Auto type thing where it's huge landscape and people are supposed to be able to drop in and drop out as needed. So
sure. I think the multiplayer is just going to be a standard arena death shooter. I don't see them doing anything special with it. But, you never know. And by the way, Matt, I really need to let you borrow Bayonetta 1 and 2 on Wii U because those games are awesome. They're really good. But hey, Brant.
Yeah?
Do you think Devil's Third is doomed? Is it in trouble?
Why? The first question comes out. Why would Nintendo develop a game that's so un-Nintendo?
Exactly. Yeah.
You had the feeling that this was just doomed from the start, as you said. So it doesn't make sense. I don't know if they were just trying to be more edgy, with Mad World or what was that good game with the guy with the lightsaber?
Oh, No More Heroes.
No More Heroes.
No More
yeah.
Heroes
was
is
awesome.
so,
Yeah, that
I
was a
love
great game.
That was a great
Both
game.
they should bring that series back, man. Grasshopper
Yeah.
should bring that series back. Suda 51. Man, I love No More Heroes.
Sure,
That game was
sure,
awesome.
but I think this was just I don't know. I don't understand the reasoning to get to a more hardcore crowd, but I don't.
Sure.
I think it's going to do the opposite effect of that.
Yeah, because with that game, it's kind of hard to find where the hook is because everything with it kind of looks generic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoy mindless beat 'em ups and action games, like even Lollipop Chainsaw. Like we talked about this before, I really enjoyed that game. It was a lot of fun. It was really dumb, and you knew it was dumb. It was mindless, but it was just a fun, actiony beat 'em up kind of game.
That's the only reason you liked it, right?
right. But I mean, something like Devil's Third, I just haven't had any interest in it. It just looks generic and kind of stale. So I don't know. We'll see. But actually, speaking of E3, did you know, Brant, that Xbox was the best-selling console the week of E3?
No way.
Probably because of backwards compatibility.
Yeah. That's so.
Yep,
that was
had to
actually
do
a
it.
huge announcement. So hopefully, that will bring more people onto the Xbox train. One thing I have in my PlayStation news, I'll just throw it in here because Matt, you mentioned backwards compatibility.
Oh yeah.
Sony's come out and said we have no interest in putting backwards compatibility on PS4. They said they feel
already got the
feel
now or
that
whatever.
the focus should only be on new experiences. So I mean, I don't know. Do you think if PlayStation was behind Xbox right now, they would be the one putting backwards compatibility in their system?
I think it would at least help them right now because everybody's like, it's very obvious that their main games are multi-platform, and not that they need to have a ton of exclusives because they're successful in what they are, but you are starting to see them lose a little bit of steam. They're still going to be way ahead for a long time.
Sure.
But you are starting to see them lose a little bit of steam, and Microsoft pick up just a little bit because of, I mean, even I have a couple cousins, and I know one of them for sure for the last year and a half, he's like, I'm getting a PS4 when I get a new system. Talked to him the other day, and just, mentioned backwards compatibility and that kind of stuff. He goes, oh yeah, I'm probably going to get an Xbox One. So already
Sure.
there's still many people out there who haven't yet upgraded, and this is starting to switch it a little bit. It's bigger than I think people think as far as drawing in customers.
I will say though,
Yeah.
it wasn't the highest selling system for June though. PS4 was still
It
the
was
number
just
one system
sure
for
it was
June.
just the week of E3. I think just the hype of what Xbox showed and the backwards compatibility and all that. People that were on the fence, I think, just jumped and said, I'm definitely getting an Xbox One. But Bremy, what about you? I mean, you had an Xbox 360 last generation, right? I mean, does this backwards compatibility, does this, do you see this as a good thing? Will you be using it at all?
Yeah, I probably will. I mainly used it for Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie at this point,
Okay.
but not unless I only have 3 Xbox 360 games because I gave my 360 to my brother.
Okay.
Because he wanted to play it. So if those games get on it, then that's great. But
Now, do you see yourself going back and purchasing some older Xbox 360 games now that you know you can play them again? I mean, is that something you look forward to, or are you just going to say, those games are old, I have no need to go back to that?
I mean, most of the games that I've wanted to play on the 360, I played.
Okay.
So unless there is a game that I completely missed and it is on the backwards compatibility list, then I would get it. But
Okay.
other than that, I'm not going to go completely out of my way to go get one.
Sure. And well, I guess a quick question, just to let our listeners know, what systems do you have right now, this generation?
Everything but the PS4.
Okay. So Wii U,
And the
Xbox
Vita.
One?
And the Vita.
Oh, and the Vita. Oh, you
Oh,
do not
man,
have a
dude.
Vita.
I do not have the Vita.
No PS4 or Vita, you're dead to me, man.
You know what, Brad?
Just
Actually,
kidding.
was it the other at E3? I mentioned how if they actually came out with a Knights of the Old Republic 3 and it was a PlayStation 4 exclusive, I would go buy out a PS4.
You would
on day
leave
one or
this
whatever.
podcast right now and
Right.
buy one.
Yeah, I would. But I thought about it the other day, and I'm like, you know what? And maybe it's just because I'm already to the point now where I like a lot of new experiences, but I still like going back and playing some older ones. But if they announce backwards compatibility, or at the very least, a Ratchet and Clank full-on collection that brought all of them forward, I would consider it.
Okay.
I thought about that the other day. I was like, you know what? I really miss playing Ratchet and Clank right now. Like, that's the one PlayStation series I really, really miss.
Sure.
Well, they already mentioned that they're not probably going to do backwards compatibility.
Which I already said.
So.
Yeah, which that kind of disappoints me.
Right. But actually, to hop into our PlayStation news, we've been following Shenmue 3 since E3. You guys know how we feel about that. But at least how I feel, how Brant feels, how Matt, from our video, we've, had a little toss up about there and now and then. But Shenmue 3 is now the most funded game in Kickstarter history. It's made almost $5.6 million. So that game has actually made quite a bit. The other thing they announced, they are more than likely not going to do any kind of physical release in stores. So if you want to get a physical release of that game, you are going to need to kickstart this thing to pay for, I forget how much it is, $40, $50, whatever it is, to get a physical copy. Otherwise, they're not making physical copies of this game. So, that's just sort of an update on what's going on with Shenmue. I think that's got like 12 hours left. So probably by the time you hear this, it's going to be over. But, it can still make a little bit more money. The other thing that's going on right now, Brant, I don't know if you saw or not, but kind of like who we were talking about, Iwata asks before with what Nintendo was doing, Sony started doing something called Conversations with Creators, where they're actually just interviewing creators on their new games, what's going on. And they actually had an interview with the people over at Naughty Dog. And a couple things came out of that. With Uncharted 4, or actually not with Uncharted 4, with the Nathan Drake collection, they actually said that they're going to be adding another difficulty called brutal difficulty. They're going to be adding that to the game to make the game a little bit harder for people that have already beat it on the hardest difficulty. So give them, a little more of a challenge. They also said that a demo is coming this summer for PS4. So if you're not sure if you want to get it or not,
awesome.
You want to see how it's going to be upgraded, check out the demo for that. That's coming to the PS4. The other thing that I actually thought was pretty interesting, lead designer Anthony Newman over at Naughty Dog said that when they were making The Last of Us, they thought for sure it was going to bomb. They actually dubbed it the developer's downfall, as that was like the nickname for the game while they were making it. And they actually said that the game didn't really come together until like the final, that real crunch time at the end of the game. They added a few mechanics and the game finally came together. I mean, how different do you think it would be if Naughty Dog had a failure, Brant? Because honestly, Naughty Dog really hasn't put out a bad game yet. I mean, do you think that lightning is eventually going to strike? Or do you think that Naughty Dog is just going to, stay positive and keep putting out great games?
Well, first of all, that game, The Last of Us, is so amazing that I can't even imagine, that game failing at all. It's just like the perfect mesh of story, gameplay, the elements, environment. It was just all, it's probably one of the best games of all time, no doubt.
Sure.
And these are top flight developers here. I don't see how they could fail at a game if they're given the time and Sony is not rushing them, which they've shown not to do.
Yeah.
Then I think the sky's the limit. I can't wait for Uncharted 4 and then The Last of Us 2, which is probably next down the pipeline.
Probably, yeah.
They already have the systems in place, so building on those, I don't see how they can fail.
Sure. So, you never know. But I know, Matt, you didn't really get around to playing The Last of Us. But
no, I thought about it the other day.
Yeah.
And I was going through it, and actually I was listening to one of our old podcasts, and I remember Brant saying how like he loves post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
And I thought about it the other day, and I'm like, why couldn't I get into Last of Us? And why couldn't I get into Fallout? Why couldn't I ever finish the Book of Eli? Like those kinds of things.
Sure.
Great
Something
movie.
about that. It turned out to be great, but it took me 5 watches to finish it because I couldn't finish it after like 30 minutes.
5?
And
Book of Eli is an awesome. I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
But something about post-apocalyptic, everybody has that area where it's popular, but it's just not for them.
Sure.
I think that's the one that's just not for me because everything that's ever been post-apocalyptic, I haven't been able to really get into, which is weird. I know, but like I love sci-fi, I love medieval fantasy, I love all those things. So I don't know.
Sure.
It's just depressing.
Yeah, I think that's the reason. I probably would never get around to playing it, even if I had a PS4 and that was what I owned and stuff, just because of that.
But you gotta go see Mad Max, though.
Oh, really?
that movie, yeah.
Oh
Action.
my gosh. Right.
Awesome,
it was
actually.
good.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
you enjoy Borderlands. I mean, that's kind of like, well, that's not really post-apocalyptic. That's a
Actually-
different planet.
But that's
so-
like a
actually-
happy.
right.
Yeah, it gets happy. Well, Borderlands 1, though, when I
Joking.
played it for the first time, I played it, like, I started it 2 different times, and I gave up after I got to, like, level 8. I couldn't get into it because it was that kind of atmosphere.
Sure.
But then one time I pushed through and got to, like, level 15 and started to pick up on the comedy. And
Yeah.
that's what, in the leveling up of weapons and everything. That's what really got me into it. And then I grew to love it because of the characters and stuff. But,
Got it.
boy, man, I don't know what it is. That type of environment, I've
Sure.
never clicked with.
And I know what you mean. Like for me, I've just for like the I guess fantasy kind of stuff, like
Medieval.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
you don't
the
like
elves and
Borderlands.
the knights and like
Yeah.
that's why I'm just not. I Skyrim was okay. I enjoyed Elder Scrolls, but I'm just that kind of
Dragon
universe.
Age.
I just can't click with that. Like I've tried so hard. I've played so many different games. Although Dragon Age is the one exception. Dragon Age
Oh,
Inquisition is amazing. But for that, it kind of like I don't know why. Like I didn't even think of it in that kind of way. But most of those games are like those fantasy type. For me, that's the one I can't really get into. So well, I guess Bremy, just to get us back on track here. You didn't have a PS3, did you?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Were you ever getting around to playing The Last of Us?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I mean, but like I played it for a little bit, then kind of stopped because I didn't really get into it, and then I picked it up again, and I couldn't put it down. It was a really good game.
Yeah. Awesome. And I guess just to add on to Matt's question, is there a genre, like with Matt and his post-apocalyptic and my fantasy stuff, is there any kind of genre you feel like it's popular but you just can't get into it? I'm just curious.
I was thinking about it the entire conversation, but I don't really know. If I do, I can't think of one.
Okay.
But like, I mean, I'm not into Fallout. I'm not really into Fallout 3, but I'm also not really into Skyrim. So
Okay. So
like,
maybe
it's
it's just the open world in general. I mean,
Yeah,
is it just too much? It's just too expansive.
it's pretty much the open world for me. Like, you give me a giant map and give like all these points to what you have to do, what you can do, and I just sit there and I think to myself, wow, look at everything I can do. I have to do all of this. I don't want to play this anymore because I have to do all of this.
Right.
And then you're like, it's going to suck me in, and I'm like, I want to do something else besides play this game for the next 3 months. Like,
Sure.
games are great, but
Exactly.
you get that feeling, yeah.
Sure.
That's how I got with Witcher 3, and I played about 25 to 30 hours into it. I'm only in Act 2, and I had to force myself to start doing story missions.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
The
Well,
best open world game will always be Red Dead Redemption.
there you go. See, I couldn't.
Yep.
Man, I that's on my shame
Love
list. It's a
that
game I
game.
didn't finish. I got about halfway through it and I never finished it.
Yeah, just because the side quests are so relevant to the story.
Sure,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
they're well written. They're fun. You can just go off and hog tie somebody, drag them to railroad tracks, and it's just awesome.
Hey, Josh, I was going to say, yeah, do you have a genre?
Yeah. What do you have any games that you feel that you just can't connect with?
If
Come on, Brent,
anything,
hit us with some reality here.
harsh dose of
There you go.
reality. Fighting games. Now, I know that's not a setting, but I just can't. I'm no
Sure.
good at them, and I just
Well,
can't.
Smash
I don't
Brothers.
have fun with them.
Smash
Yeah,
Brothers.
Smash Brothers.
Smash
if
Brothers
that
is more of a
counts.
brawler.
Sure,
It's not an
sure,
actual fighter.
yeah, that's true. Well,
Now, is it like the 2D fighters or like the 3D fight? Like, I don't know if you played like the Naruto Shippuden games. Those are more 3D aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just any type of fighting game, really. I mean, the 2D Street Fighters, Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive's probably my favorite. Not because of the fighting mechanics, not because of anything else, guys. Okay.
right.
But it's just, I just don't have fun with them, just because, like I said, that they frustrate me, and it seems like everybody else is better. So
Yeah. I mean, I have the same problem. But like, I really like fighting, like certain fighting games, like Mortal Kombat and Dead or Alive and things like that. And I like the first week or so, I can get online. I do pretty well, but like if a few weeks go by, I hop online. I can't win a match. I just get my butt kicked over and over and over again. And I agree, it gets really frustrating.
Hey, Jamie, we should make all the listeners comment. What kind of genre can they not get into, or what kind of game can they not get into?
That's actually a really good question, guys. If there's a genre you guys can't get into, comment on our Facebook page. We'll put a post up about it, because that's actually a really good question, because everyone sort of has that one genre you can't get into. So you never know. But, and Brant, one game I know you're really excited for is Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, yeah.
And, with that coming out soon, there's been a lot of uproar over Kojima and his company. And, are they leaving Konami? Are they not leaving Konami? And they took all, like, his name and his company's name off the box of Metal Gear Solid 5. People complained. They put it back on. Well, now a press release came out and they took it off again. And they actually came out. Right. And they actually came out and said that after Metal Gear Solid 5 comes out, that team is going to disband. It's not going to be there anymore. So that's probably why they took it off the box. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where Kojima goes after this. If he's going to go more of like a Kickstarter route and make games on his own, if he's going to join another company, I mean, who knows? I mean, you never know. Although the Metal Gear games are always ridiculously expensive to make.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, where he'll go, but never know.
You know that they're always solid, though. Solid gaming experiences. But this will be the last minute. They're going to
solid.
They're going to
Is that a pun?
But they're always good games. But I think after this one, they'll make more, but this will be the last one that I truly play, just because Kojima is writing in it. I just don't really want the universe to go on, I guess, just because he makes those games. And he would be working on Silent Hills, but...
Actually, Brant, speaking of universes, one thing that's been in the news a lot lately is that probe that's been flying around Pluto.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that's come out is that they actually used CPUs from the PS1 to power that probe. So I just thought in that our little PlayStation news with that.
You'd think they could have used better equipment. I don't know. Maybe they sent it out years ago, and that's why. But,
right.
Well, I think they sent it out in 2003.
There you go.
But even by then, you had the PS2, and
It might have been cheaper. I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, it's very strange because all these like government facilities are using PlayStation, because they used the PlayStation on this probe. And a few years back, I think it was, they said, what was it? Some military Air Force base or something was being powered by PlayStation 2s. I forget what it was. I mean, they're for some reason, PlayStation had, our government is using PlayStation.
They knew they'd get viruses with Microsoft stuff. So.
Right. Well, Brant, you've been enjoying
funny
Fallout
guy, huh?
Shelter, right?
What's that?
Have you been playing Fallout Shelter still? Or did you kind of give up on that?
So they gave up on it, but I mean, as far as games go on my phone, that's about the only one I would play.
Got it.
Did you see? I was going to say, so you probably had the news I'm literally about to say. Yeah.
Yep, that Fallout Shelter in the first 2 weeks of release made $5.1 million.
That's amazing.
And they came out, when they released it, they said, we're not releasing this to make money. It's free to play. Check it out.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, people are spending money on lunch boxes or whatever and all that stuff, so they're making so much money on that.
You knew they would.
Yeah.
That is exactly why mobile games are the market people are going for nowadays, because casual people will actually play them. And I can just imagine Nintendo later this year releasing a Mario game that's made for phones. Like, people pay $1 for it, they're going to make millions off of that.
Yeah.
No
And
doubt.
that's one thing that, they're going to the mobile. So is that going to take over for their handheld? Like, because, the handhelds like 3DS are starting to fall. Who knows? But one thing I was listening to, I'm trying to remember which podcast it was. It may have been the Warp Whistle podcast with Mark and them, but it was a Nintendo-centric podcast. And they were talking about, if Nintendo, for some reason, they said, we're not making consoles anymore, we're only doing games, and they're saying they'll be fine. And I'm thinking, that's true in a way, but when Nintendo makes their hardware, they do something special. They do something crazy. They do something, like the Wii Remote. No one was expecting that. The tablet, no one was expecting that. Touchscreens with the DS before smartphones were big. I mean, they've always done something new and different. And if Nintendo left the industry for whatever reason, we would just have two identical companies making the exact same games.
Maybe that's why, I know everybody always wants Nintendo to actually compete with Microsoft and Sony and have a system that's just as powerful. Maybe that's why they're actually trying to go less, because they realize what they are, and maybe by making more affordable devices, they might feel like they can strike again with a Wii. Maybe not with that kind of thing, but even more casual, even more to the open audience and have a different device. Something that might be eventually more closely related to an Apple TV, except with games, or a Amazon Fire thing, whatever, closely related to that than, say, like a PS5.
I think that's a mistake.
The direction they're going.
And why is that, Brant?
They need parity with the other systems, and their type of games don't need the power of the other systems, but they need third-party support.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that's hindering them.
But I think the real problem with the third-party support, though, is not so much the power. It's more that third-party companies have been saying since N64 and since GameCube, people who buy Nintendo consoles, they buy it for Nintendo games. They do not buy it for third-party games because they never sold on Nintendo. I mean, except for the NES and SNES, of course. But more recently, all third-party companies come out and say people just don't buy Nintendo systems for third parties. So, I mean, if they never get the third parties back, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where they go with the NX. Who knows?
Yeah, and I don't know where they'll go. I'll be interested no matter what. But I'm just wondering if that's why they're heading down that road.
Sure.
They just really need to shave the whole we're the second system, come out with a statement saying, yeah, we're the one system that you need. You don't need any other systems.
But here's the thing. Being the second system is actually good for them because it helps them sell more systems. Because you have an Xbox One, you'll get a Nintendo. If you have a PS4, you'll get Nintendo.
I think it doesn't help them in this particular market with the Wii U, but I think if it was more casual and if it was more connected to mobile, it might help them because that's a wider audience that they would appeal to. If they were just like the Wii U is still just a console, so it's not appealing to a lot. But if it was more open, and it was something really different. If this NX is really different, it may not be what we want as gamers, but it could be something that appeals.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man, you make a good point. It just needs to relate to a lot of people.
Sure. And that's why the Wii was so successful. I mean, there was hardly any buttons on the thing. Anybody could pick up and play it, Yeah. So, going back to what Iwata said before, the games, the whole reason they're made is meant to be fun for everybody. But I guess, Bremy, it's your first time on the show, so what do you think about the NX? What do you think it's going to be, and, what's Nintendo going to do?
Well, a little while ago, they had that report for the Nintendo Fusion, where they had it's like a mobile or not handheld and home console combined kind of thing. That's kind of where I think they're heading with it.
Okay,
is something that you can to kind of give a visual representation, like a plug and play console, where you can plug it in, where you can plug it into the TV or something, and it projects whatever in high definition, and you can take it out and then keep playing, kind of like the Vita with its cross platform thing, except just like one system.
Okay, sure.
I don't know how they would do it, but like if they could do that, that'd be amazing in my opinion.
And that would make them unique. No one else would have anything like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it would definitely appeal to the Japanese audience, which seems to be the ones they usually care about the most.
Sure. I mean, because they have smaller homes, they want to take up less space, and one console they can do it all.
And over there,
nice.
mobile dominates because consoles don't sell it all over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're constantly moving. They're constantly out of their house. Nobody really sits in their house in Japan anymore.
Sure.
So that mobile market's huge over there.
Sure. Well, real quick, just to get us back on track here, just to cover some more news that's multi-platform. Before, just to say a rumor that we had on the show previously was true. Prototype 1 and 2, it got, leaked. It was going to come out on Xbox One, and it was going to come out, in a week. And everyone's like, what's going on? Well, apparently, it came out on Xbox One and PS4 this week. So, if you want to check out Prototype 1 and 2, go ahead and check that out. You can hear our opinions of that on the last episode. The other big thing in the news this week, Dead Island 2, that was a big game that we didn't see at this year's E3. And people were like, well,
awesome
where to go?
Trailer.
Yeah, they had a really awesome trailer. A lot of people talked about that. Well, Deep Silver and the developer of the game, Jaeger Developments, they parted ways, and they said it was over creative differences. I actually wrote an article about this, going back to the work print again. Check that out. Just goes into a little more detail on this. But I guess they were pretty far in the game, and they're still going to try to finish it. But I have a feeling it's going to get delayed a little bit more. So who knows? And Dead Island, the first Dead Island was really good. Riptide was it felt more like an expansion pack to me versus a full-on game. But although Dead Island 2 was being made by, the Spec Ops guys, so I mean, it was a whole new team, they had a whole new vision. But Deep Silver said, they still have things on track and they're going to pull it together. So, we'll see. You never know. But real quick, we're going to get into our game money-saving part of the show we call My Two Cents. Brant, you were telling me before about a special flash sale going on right now on PlayStation. Let our listeners know a little bit about that.
Okay, well, this Friday through Monday, I think 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. East Pacific, you can get some really good deals on sci-fi games is the theme for this week. And like I picked up Borderlands, the Handsome Collection for $30. You can get you got to look at all the games on there. There's a lot of good deals. Deus Ex is $6.
Oh, wow.
It's originally $30.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Yeah, ridiculous sales. I mean, there's games that are $15 that are like $4. So
Sure.
Go on over PSN Network. It's over the Vita, PS3, and PS4, and check out some of those deals because you'll find something you'll want.
Awesome. And I know because Xbox recently had that, Ultimate Game Sale, and this is kind of like the PlayStation version of that. Real quick, though, just to hit some other PlayStation deals. Right now at Best Buy, if you buy a brand new PS4, you're going to get a free silver headset. They did that before, and they kind of switched it out with a charge station for a while, and now it's back to a headset. Just buy a PS4 at Best Buy. The other thing right now for Game Club Unlocked members, Brant, I know you're always promoting this, saying how great it is.
Oh, amazing.
Right now, you can get MLB The Show or The Order 1886 for $16 through the Game Club over at Best Buy. And the other one, you can get Bloodborne for only $32. So, that's a pretty good deal. So if you're trying to save some money,
I didn't know
check that out.
Huh.
Yep, so they're actually doing some deals
The
on
Order
that.
might be in my future.
$16, sir. I mean, it's probably worth $16 at least.
Oh, yeah. I imagine that.
Right. Well, real quick, over on Xbox side, you can actually get a free copy of Assassin's Creed Unity if you buy a 1 terabyte version of the Xbox One through the Microsoft Store. So they don't actually have an official bundle for the 1 terabyte to come with the game, but this way you get Assassin's Creed with it, so that's kind of nice. Also, we're halfway through the month, so that means the game switched on Xbox Live Games with Gold, and now you can get Gears of War 3 for free on Xbox 360. If it was backwards compatibility coming out, claim it, because for sure that's going to come on the list, so you can play that on your Xbox One in the future. And also, speaking of Xbox One, So Many Me is free on the Xbox One right now as well. That's kind of like an indie title. I played it a little bit. It's kind of like a puzzle platformer. It's okay. Didn't really impress me too much, but it's free. The other thing right now, another Best Buy thing actually, if you buy Rory McIlroy PGA, the new golf game that just came out, they will give you a coupon to get $10 off an Xbox One controller. Although I've heard the reviews on Rory McIlroy aren't that great.
Doesn't
if you're
roll
into golf
off
games,
the tongue very well.
No.
if you're into golf games, and you can get a $10 off controller for that. The other thing that Matt had already mentioned, right now Tomb Raider you can get for like $10 if you're a gold member on this sale. That game is awesome. I'm still super pumped for Rise of the Tomb Raider this year. If you haven't played the definitive edition that came out, check it out. It is absolutely worth $10, even more than that. So, make sure to check that out.
Yeah, I picked it up because I'd borrowed yours to actually play it, but now I own it, which is
that
cool.
game. It's so good. Oh my, I love that game. It so
was
awesome.
a great
I
game.
Need to go. I would go through and try to 100% it, but it's got multiplayer trophies or achievements, and I hate when they do that.
Yeah.
That means I'm not going to 100% the game, but that's how it goes. But real quick, before we hop into our big topic of the week for our summer game series, let's just sort of talk about what we've been playing lately. Bremy, you're our guest. We'll start with you, sir. What have you been gaming lately?
I've been playing. I've recently gotten back into Final Fantasy XIV Online.
Oh, okay.
For Heaven's Ward.
How's that? Is it good?
I absolutely love it. I love that game so much. I love MMOs too, so that kind of helps. And I've actually been replaying Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door too.
Oh, I love that game. That's probably my favorite game in the Paper Mario series. That game is so good.
Same here.
It's just the humor's there, the combat's there, like all the partners and characters and this. Oh man,
It
that
just
game comes
oozes
together
with
so well.
charm.
Yeah, it does. It'll be interesting to see how Paper Jam turns out, because I really enjoy Mario and Luigi, and I really enjoy Paper Mario, and sticking them together, we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
But, Matt, what about you, man? I know you just picked up Tomb Raider. Is there anything else you've been playing lately?
Oh, I finally completed Earthbound Beginnings.
Last
week, I think, and which was awesome ending there. Played a ton of Minecraft with you, and still played it at the beginning this week. We haven't got a chance to get together this week.
I know. We've been busy every night, man.
I played a little more Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Lots of Borderlands, the pre-sequel. After playing with that with you that game the other night, I got back into it and was moving a little more forward. And then what was I doing? Oh, Tales of the Borderlands.
Oh, so
great! Good. I completed all 3 episodes that are out. I can't wait for the next episode. I actually got my wife into playing it. She does not play video games at all. Like, literally, she's your stereotypical, like, girly girl, does not like video games at all. And she couldn't control it. But
girly girl.
I held the controller, and just along the way, she would make the decisions, and she's like,
sure.
Oh, I don't want to make Vaughn mad at me, and, like, did all these cool things, and she was actually getting really into it.
Awesome.
So that was a lot of fun.
And that's a really good game to do that with. I mean, because like you, Matt, I picked up Tales of the Borderlands super cheap. You know, I'm almost through the third, what do you want to call it, chapter or episode. I'm like close to the end of that. I've really enjoyed it, and like I mentioned previously, that game it almost feels like a cutscene that. It's just like one long cutscene. There's a couple places where you walk around, but majority of it is just, hitting directions or hitting a button. So I could see sitting down with someone and sort of joining each other on that. It'd actually be a really easy game to do that with.
I mean, Telltale games, for me, actually, like, the whole walking around part actually kind of... I may be one of the rare people who actually believe this, but I feel like that gets in the way. Like, the fun part about it is the cutscenes, because that's what you expect out of a Telltale game, is the choices.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's why I actually kind of like this one better than I do like Back to the Future. I played through all those when I had on my PS3, I think, and that was a great series on it down. But like, I'm actually enjoying this one even more because it's less, you have to pick up this specific item and make sure you have it before you enter into this cutscene or whatever. It's a lot less of that. It's just straight out cutscene and decisions, which is for a Telltale game. I feel that's the driving factor.
Sure, and the humor in that, they made it feel just like Borderlands. Like, it's amazing. It looks like Borderlands. The humor, even though you're not doing the same stuff you do in Borderlands, they still made it feel like Borderlands, which is awesome.
A lot of cameos, too, which is cool.
Yeah, which is, it's just so funny. I love it. But the other thing I've been doing, like you said, we've been playing a little bit of, the normal Borderlands, a little bit of pre-sequel earlier this week. But Xbox Live was down for one night. Like, it wasn't connecting for some reason. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hop into Splatoon. I haven't played Splatoon for a while. And now I am totally hooked back on Splatoon. Because now they've got another one of those, I can't remember what it's called.
Splatfest.
One of those... Yeah, Splatfest. Yeah, they've got another one of those coming up. And now it is roller coasters versus water slides. So you go on there and you vote for, which team you want to be on. And then throughout the week, you kind of build up, because you get a shirt. And it's got 3 slots to fill. So you have the week to fill those slots. And then all day Saturday, every game you play adds to these points. And then at the end, they tally it all up. And if you are... if you're on the winning team, you get some extra stuff, which is actually pretty cool. And they've updated so much in that game since I played it last. They've added new stages. I mean, they're adding pretty much new weapons every week, so I'm kind of falling behind on the new weapons. Actually, I fell in love with the new weapon, the Lunar Blaster. Oh my gosh, I love that thing. I use it like all the time now. But man, that game is so good. Nintendo has such a hit on its hands, and just because the Wii U is selling so badly, it's sad to think that not that many people get to play it, but man, that game is good.
I got a question. Did you guys mention Splatoon last week?
I can't remember, because I know, like I said, every week they're coming out with new maps.
Every single week,
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, every single week since it's come out, I'm pretty sure we've mentioned it on an episode.
That's probably true, because we know Brant loves this game.
Exactly.
But actually, Brant, speaking of you, sir...
Yeah.
What have you been gaming lately, man?
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 indie hits here.
Oh my goodness, 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah, 2 for the price of 1. Brant's Indies. I got these on sale a couple weeks back.
What a deal.
One is called, they're both for the PS4. One is called Ziggurat.
Okay.
And you probably never heard of this game before.
Nope.
But it is a roguelike first-person shooter.
It's like
a dungeon crawler. And it's always randomized. and they have a good selection of enemies. You get some awesome abilities. It's set in a medieval style, but you have like a magic wand. There's like tons of weapons you can use. But yeah, it's definitely one to check out. It's pretty cheap even without the sale. And then another one which I just love to play is Hand of Fate. I don't know if you guys heard of this game.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually like a choose your own adventure roguelike type of game where you have this dealer. He places these cards out, and then you choose the direction you want to go. And then, you can run into a merchant, you can run into a trap, you can run into some thugs. And I mean, it's always, real time. It's, always changing. And you get armor, weapons. The only bad thing about it, the combat isn't the greatest, but it's easy to get into. It flows well. There's really no problems, but I'm really enjoying that game too. So there you go. Awesome. Check them out.
Cool. Well, with that, guys, we are going to hop into our topic of the week. Like I said, we've been doing our summer game series. This is our 4th week of our summer game series. And this time we'll be talking about Star Fox. So with that, Brant, let us hear the Star Fox theme song. How does that go?
How does that go?
Yeah, come on, dude. Pick it up. Let's hear it.
Dun, 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 dun. I don't know. Give it to Bremy. He knows more about it.
Sure. I don't know Bremy. You don't know the theme song?
Matt.
Come on. Okay. Here we go.
If I heard it, I would know.
Oh yeah.
Corneria. There. Okay.
I was trying to think of the title theme on the title card of 64. And for some reason, Fire Emblem just kept coming into my mind.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Just some generic sci-fi upbeat songs came into my mind.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, like, an N64 title screen is more like that spacey kind of music, So, because the one I was doing was like the one they're hopping the R-Wings or getting ready to shoot off in space.
Yep.
I mean, you guys should know this from Smash Brothers, guys. Come on, get with it.
Man.
It's true.
Well, real quick, guys, with our topic of the week, I'll sort of do what we've been doing the past couple of weeks, or 3 weeks now. I'm just going to go through a brief history of the series, and as we come across these different games, as you guys have memories about these, about the series, or any big point you want to bring up, or favorite parts, just go ahead and chime in. So pretty much, Star Fox started on the Super Nintendo, and it came out in 1993. It's actually called Star Wing in the UK due to some, copyright issues, which is kind of strange because as I go through this, a lot of, this one and the 64 game the name was changed in the UK due to some, naming issues. But Star Fox was created by Argonaut Software. And what happened, they kind of worked on PC and were making these early 3D games. They made a game called Star Glider and Birds of Prey. So that was like kind of what they were famous for at the time. But the big name in consoles at the time was the NES. They're like, man, we have to work with Nintendo. So what they did, they actually got a Game Boy and reverse engineered it to find out how it would work. And then they started making these like 3D models on Game Boy, just say, look, here's what we can do. And they actually got with Nintendo, and Nintendo said, this is great, we want to work with you guys, because they were really anxious to get into 3D gaming. They wanted to create these, 3D visuals because they wanted to beat Sega to the market. Is pretty much what was happening.
Yeah.
And so they had them make this game called Star Glider for NES, and they made a game called X on the Game Boy. After that, they pretty much took Argonauts, took the team and shipped them to Japan, and they pretty much worked out of Japan. They had them, they were like their right-hand man when it came to all this stuff, and they worked side by side on Miyamoto, and they're sort of training Nintendo how to make 3D games. And they said, well, the SNES, it's not powerful enough. What are we going to do? Because they wanted to avoid what Sega was doing with the Mega Drive and the 32X attachments. They didn't want to do any kind of, special add-ons you have to buy extra to plug into your system. So what they did, they decided to come up with this special chip, this 3D visual chip that they could put into every single cartridge. It made the cartridge a little pricier, but they felt it was worth it because any Super Nintendo could play it. You wouldn't have to go out and buy this special attachment for one game. It was built into the game. Originally, it was called the Mathematical Argonaut Rotation I/O chip, or the Mario chip for short. Later, they started calling it the Super FX chip. So that's how we sort of know it today. The Super FX chip is, what they called it. like I said, Miyamoto was working on the project and they're kind of training them on this. And with Star Fox, Argonauts was really good at doing 3D visuals, but they weren't that great at level design. So Nintendo kind of went through and they made the level design, the character design, things like that. And Argonauts made the 3D models for everything. So, they worked hand in hand on that. And then it released, and it was like this major hit for Nintendo. At launch, it sold over 4 million copies worldwide. So, I mean, it was crazy big. For that time, that was big. And eventually started using it as a pack-in on the Super Nintendo. At least in the UK. I can't remember if they did that in America or not. I just remembered I had a copy of Star Fox.
So did I.
So, Bremy, you had the actual Super Nintendo cartridge then, huh?
Yeah, I found it at a garage sale. My neighbor's garage sale at the time when I lived in Minster, Ohio. But I absolutely once I found it, I knew I wanted it, and it was actually fairly cheap because it was a garage sale, and I couldn't put it down when I first played it. It was just so good.
It was unlike anything we've seen before. I mean, you were flying through space in 3D. Like it was awesome. But the funny thing was with all the voice acting, they didn't have actual voice acting. It was like it was just like these random sounds. I remember whenever Falco talked, it sounded like he was saying "we be jamming." I was like, it always sounded like that every time.
I love the puppet aspect of it too.
Yeah. And also on the box art, I remember people making a big deal because all the characters had like these metal legs. Do you remember that? And they said the whole reason they did that, it was almost like this dark background to Star Fox where they amputated their legs and put these metal legs on because it was going to help them hit higher G-force. Or I forget what the reason was. It was some reason so they wouldn't pass out when they were flying.
It was so like because they reach so high speeds that their blood goes from the top of the body to the bottom, and their little thing why they did it is they pretty much cut off their legs so that blood flow doesnnt go down that far. It is
that's
pretty
a nice,
dark
happy,
for a Nintendo
family-friendly thing. Well, Brant, what about you? Because you never had a Super Nintendo, right? Did you ever get a chance to play Star Fox at all?
Oh yeah, I came over to your house to play it, man. That was the game to play.
Sure, but I mean, what were your impressions when you first started playing Star Fox, though?
I thought it was so amazing at the time, just how the 3D meshed, and you didn't, like you guys said, you never saw anything like it before, and it was just really awesome.
Awesome, like that, and that's the game that'll always stick with me. Like I said before, Star Fox is probably, if not my favorite Nintendo series, like it's pretty high up there. I just love Star Fox. But Matt, what about you, man? Because you got Nintendo a little bit later. Did you ever get a chance to go back and play the original Star Fox?
I did probably last year, I want to say. So, 20-something years after it came out. No, it was really good. I've never been great with flight sims, so I wasn't very good at it. It took me a while to beat it, but it's a really short playthrough. It's like, half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. You play through like 4 or 5 missions, and it's got the whole choose your path thing based on I guess it was based on where you flew.
Sure.
I know how that works really well. But it was pretty awesome. I like, it was a fun little story. The co-pilots were hilarious. And so, I mean, it was, looking back on it, definitely I can see why it's a classic.
Sure. And with that being so popular as it was, I mean, they said less than a month after Star Fox released, they started working on a sequel. And the plan was for this game to come out for the Super Nintendo. It was going to be called Star Fox 2, and it was going to come out in the summer of 1995. That was the plan. This was supposed to be the swan song for the SNES because they knew they had the N64. It was on the horizon. You could see it coming over the hill in the distance. So they wanted to make this Star Fox 2. And they heavily promoted it. It was in magazines. They had posters out. They even had in Toys R Us, the fake boxes, the fake box art. They had all that stuff ready to go. And then about a month or two before it released, it was maybe not a month before it released. It was 95% complete. So this game was pretty much solid and done. Nintendo said, nope, we're going to cancel it because they felt that the next big systems that were on the way, the PlayStation and the Saturn, they were coming out that summer, or at least pretty soon around that time. And they said, well, these are really powerful 32-bit home consoles. Our 3D is going to look like garbage compared to this. And they said, people, even though it's on a lesser platform, people won't realize that. Like, oh, well, this just doesn't look as good. And they won't really give a reason for, well, it looks bad, not bad, but it doesn't look as good because it's on an older platform. So Nintendo said, instead of looking bad, we are just going to cancel it. But Star Fox 2 has so many good ideas in it. They've actually started to recycle into new Star Fox games.
Wonder if...
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I was going to say, you wonder if maybe part of that, too, was not just the other companies, but them themselves, because if the N64 was just on the horizon, we all know one of the greatest launch titles of all time came out with the N64 in Super Mario 64, and, I mean, I didn't really like it, but, most people did. And how great that looked for the time. You wonder if even themselves, over the course of, a year and a half, however long they spent on developing this, they were like, wow, okay, we're gonna, just a few months from now, release this, Mario, and this is what we're making with Star Fox. Maybe we could do better. You wonder if maybe there was some of that, too.
Sure. But, like I said, a lot of these ideas of what they did, they said they were going to scrap it. But the company, that was making Star Fox 2, they said it was 95% complete when they told them to pull the plug and cancel it. Well, the team was upset, but they thought, we've come this far. Let's just finish it. So what they did, they went ahead, they finished the game, they sent it off to Nintendo Q&A. And actually, according to Dylan Cuthbert, who was the guy, one of the main guys working on this game, he said there's actually a finished version of Star Fox 2 available. But he said it's not the ROM that's been floating around the internet for the past few years. He said that Star Fox 2 is actually, it's got bugs in it, it's got some unfinished sequences. That version is actually not complete. The only real version of Star Fox 2 that's actually finished, Nintendo has the only copy. Some people sort of wondered if it was going to ever come out, maybe on Virtual Console or something like that. That would be absolutely fantastic. You never know. But what made this game so special? Why was Star Fox 2 such a big deal? And why are they stealing these ideas? Pretty much what they said was Star Fox was never planned to be a linear shooter. They said that was not the plan. The only reason they did that in the original Star Fox was because that's all they could do with the power. Because with this game, they created a brand new Super Effects Chip 2. Brand new, is twice the speed. It could do a lot more. And they said this game was going to leave that, linear level-based design. And they said it was going to actually be more of a tactical, open game. They actually said, using Josh's favorite term, roguelike. They said it was going to follow a roguelike structure. It was going to have random elements that would affect your battles. So it was going to be, every time you played it was going to be different. This was actually the first time the R-Wing could transform into a walker. It actually looks identical to the walker they showed off in Star Fox Zero, which we'll get to later. Huh. So, they took that idea from it. The interesting thing about Star Fox, Miyamoto was actually quoted saying that he feels that Star Fox is kind of like his test bed for new ideas. He could always try things with Star Fox, new and different. And I feel like over the years, Star Fox has kind of become almost like a linear shooter in a way. At least the key, Star Fox and Star Fox 64 and things like that have sort of stayed to that linear path, where I feel like games like Kirby have kind of come more of the, test bed for ideas, but, you never know.
Yeah.
So they took this game, they finished it, and they actually, the people that started working on Star Fox Command, we'll get to that in a little bit, but when they started working on Star Fox Command, that's the only team that's ever played all the way through Star Fox 2. They actually gave them Star Fox 2 and said, play through this for inspiration, for ideas, and that's the only group of people that have ever, played the official Star Fox 2. So if they ever released this in ROM form or in, Virtual Console or whatever, that would be awesome. You never know. I mean, Star Fox Zero is coming out, maybe Nintendo could surprise us. So, actually, that sounds like a Star Fox you might actually enjoy.
Yeah. The Dark Souls of Star Fox. If you
right. But and one thing they did on that, it was kind of like an open world map. And you saw these, enemy ships and, rockets heading toward, a planet or whatever. And you would move each ship, so many spaces or whatever to a certain place. And the enemy would get to move. And then you would move. And if you collided with an enemy or a rocket or something like that, you would go to a battle mode and fight it. So it, like I said, it was kind of random each time. So it made the game different every time you played it. It was more about defending the Lilat system versus, flying around all these different planets. So,
see, that sounds innovative.
Sure. But in October of 97 is when Star Fox 64 came out. That was the big
That was a
deal.
good one.
And it's actually called Lilat Wars in the UK. So sometimes you hear the name Lilat Wars, that's actually it's Star Fox 64, exact same game. So I mean that's all due to naming issues and things like that. But I mean that series actually introduced a whole lot of new things. It introduced all range mode, charge shots. It introduced the head-to-head battles you were having. All that came over in Star Fox 64. It was oh, sorry, go ahead, sir.
See the whole licensing thing with Britain. That just makes me wonder what movie or book or anything had came out before that was called Star Fox that could possibly make them not be able to name it that.
Sure. I think it was a company. Like it was a company.
Yeah, it was actually called Starvox. Starvox with a V.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they said they thought there was going to be confusion with the company and Star Fox, which is kind of weird because a game and a company, but they were afraid there was going to be some kind of conflict, so we'll just change the name.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
But on top of adding all these different modes, it was the first game to use a Rumble Pack. A Rumble Pack came with Star Fox 64.
Revolutionary.
Controls never rumbled before that. So I mean, that was a really big deal. It had voice acting. I mean, this was another big step for Nintendo. I mean, it's just... And just all the voice acting from Falco and Slippy and all these memorable lines like, do a barrel roll. Like, this stuff has carried on through, all these years. People just have these great memories of, Star Fox 64. It was also the first time we saw the Landmaster and the submarine. And Brant, I know for you spent so much time in Star Fox 64.
Yeah, this was truly a special game. I remember getting it, and that night... all I wanted to do was play it, but I was going camping with my dad.
Oh.
And I took the box with me out to the tent and ogling over it. And I love camping with my dad, but yeah, I always wanted to, just play that game. And once I got the chance, I mean, it's the best Star Fox game in my opinion. But yeah,
sure.
Just so much fun. Every system you went to, the enemies were just so, relatable. You could, the guy, who was the guy with the crane on that water planet? I forget what his name is.
Oh man, I can't. Yeah, it's so funny because I've played these games so many times, but the names of the enemies, besides the main ones like Andros and Pigma and Wolf and things like that.
And it was so open-ended. You had to do certain things to open up other parts of the galaxy. I mean,
even the first level alone, you had to fly under those, those.
To get the secret
rock formation. Yeah.
Thing. I didn't even get to the submarine level until, way later. And I was like, whoa, my mind's blown now.
Yeah.
Before internet.
Right, and all those branching paths, man, you had to talk to your friends and say, how'd you get here? And, have you played this level yet? That level where you were the Landmaster, and it was the desert, and you're fighting that giant, it was worm creature or whatever. I didn't play that level till so much later. I didn't know that level existed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, there's so many branching paths in Star Fox 64. I mean, honestly, Brant, I think a lot of people would agree with you that Star Fox 64 is the best, just because it has all these fond memories of this game. But, Bremy, what about you, man? What's your experience with Star Fox 64?
I actually haven't played much of it.
What? Excuse yourself from the show, sir.
Okay, I'll just leave right now. Thanks for having me.
No.
But it's a game I never owned, so I never played much of it. I never borrowed it either. Not many of my friends had it or played it either. It was just kind of one of those games that it just wasn't really in my life at all.
Wasn't relevant at the time.
Yeah. I played it a couple times with my cousins, and I played single player, I think, through once, but that was just kind of the basic path. I didn't really try to get anywhere else.
Did you ever get it on the virtual console or anything like that?
No.
For the 3DS?
No, actually, I wanted to get it for the 3DS, but I just never bought it. I mean,
sure.
It's just, it's not a game that I know it's good, but I have fond memories with Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, but it just never carried over to the N64 version.
And honestly, if you're going to play it now, definitely play the 3DS version, because they redid all the voice acting and all the graphics. I mean, it's although the voice acting for Peppy, it sounds kind of weird, but everything else in that game is super solid. But Matt, what about you, man?
Doesn't it?
I actually, this is the only Star Fox game that I touched when it originally came out.
Wow.
I wouldn't say when it originally came out, but it was a year or so after. It was still in the late 90s.
Sure.
But it was only the multiplayer. I played multiplayer. over at a friend's house, and we kind of flew around trying to attack each other, and that was a lot of fun. And then I played, well, I guess I did play like a couple single-player missions, but I didn't really seriously play the single-player until last year. I think around the same time I played the Super Nintendo one. And you can definitely tell it was a step above the Super Nintendo one.
Sure.
Like, I mean, the story even, like, Star Fox isn't, like, always the deepest story, but it was cool because you had Wolf and his team that was always, like, going against you. Whenever they appeared on a level, you're like, oh no, and you gotta fight them. And then Pigma, the fact that he, like, betrayed your dad and stuff, and, like, so you had that extra motivation to go after Andros, and that's to get your dad and stuff. And then the whole, like, Andros... Yeah, and then he was like that giant face. You guys remember that? He's like that giant face, and then when you destroyed him, it was like a brain.
Where's Star Fox?
That's awesome.
But I did have the luxury, since I played it so late, of being able to see very easily after one playthrough, like, how to get to the submarine level and how to get to the tank in the desert. So I got to experience all those without having to play it 1,000 different times like you guys did. But they were all really good.
James, do you remember how to unlock the on the multiplayer, the on-ground segments? Where
I remember me and you, man, we were playing so much of that. We would, like, all get on foot and, like, have bazookas and try to shoot each other.
It controlled so terribly.
It was so
but
bad.
It was just hilarious.
Oh, man. For some reason, right now, quoting all these lines, I just remember that one guy who's, like, the robot floating in space, and you'd fly around him and shoot him and be like, you cocky little freak. And, like, you would say it over and over and over again.
Over and over.
Oh, man, dude, there's so many quotable lines from Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
My gosh.
So memorable.
But,
And then we got Adventures.
Right. I was going to say, after that came a little more controversial game. September 2002, Star Fox Adventures Dinosaur Planet came out for the GameCube. This was made by Rare. This was actually the final game they made with Nintendo. They were actually purchased by Microsoft midway through the development of this game. So Microsoft already had them in their back pocket. But the interesting thing that when Microsoft owned them, they owned 100% of the company. With Nintendo, they only owned 49% of the company. And they let Rare do whatever they want. Like, Rare, they like to follow what Nintendo asked them to do, but Nintendo gave them a little bit of space to do what they want. Well, with Xbox and with, a lot of people said Microsoft kind of, squished Rare. And maybe maybe because they own 100% of Rare. I don't know. Yeah. But about midway through development of this game, right before they got purchased by Microsoft, this was actually going to be an N64 game. And it starred two main characters, Saber and Crystal. So Crystal actually carried over. Crystal's one of the characters that carried over. But one interesting thing about this game, you could actually swap between these two main characters. Each one had different powers and things like that. The other difference, your sidekick in the game was a pterodactyl named Kite, who could fly to help you solve puzzles. Later, that actually became Prince Tricky, more like a Triceratops, I guess, who would help you solve puzzles. But it was a little bit different. But about midway through, they've been working on this N64 game. They're really proud of it. And Miyamoto came out and said, hey, these characters, they look kind of like Star Fox. We should put this all into the Star Fox universe. So what they decided to do, they had to rework the entire game. They had to go in, they had to change the engine, they had to change, all of that to make it fit inside Star Fox. And so during that development time, they took it from Nintendo 64 over to the GameCube. So that changed a lot. And so they had to rework a lot of it and and sort of shoehorn Star Fox into this game. And a lot of people said that kind of hurt it. But one thing that stayed roughly the same, the game was very much like Legend of Zelda, the Legend of Zelda series. I mean, it played very much like it, but in a good way. Like, it took the best parts of it and played really well. A lot of people don't like Adventures. I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I've played through it a few times. But one thing people don't like is they were used to Star Fox being in the R-Wing. This is what Star Fox does. And they actually added R-Wing sections into it. But they said they did it at the very last minute. It was the last thing they added into the game. They said that the game engine wasn't made to do space missions. So that's why they kind of look kind of funky. But one thing I will say about Star Fox Adventures, like the on-foot stuff, when you're on Dinosaur Planet, working with Crystal and all that, that game graphically still looks really good. Like, they did a very good job. And like for the GameCube, that's probably one of the best looking games on the GameCube. I mean, go on and play that now. Just look at like the fur on Fox, the way it hits the shadows and light and things like that. That game is a very gorgeous game for GameCube. But,
it really is.
And Bremy, what about you? I mean, you enjoyed the Star Fox Adventures games, right?
I've never beaten it, but I mean, it's for what it is. It's actually really good. It's a fine game. I just never get into it.
Sure. I mean, there was actually one mission in that game that stopped me the first time I played and came back later and finished it. It's this one part where you had to carry this explosive barrel up this like circular tower. And while you were doing that, they're like these like big rocks, whatever, rolling down this circular tower at you. If you got hit and exploded, you had to go all the way back down to the tower and do it all over again. I just remember for me, that was like a major bottleneck. I mean, there were a couple places in the game that had like these bottlenecks where it could have been polished a little bit better. But for all the hate this game gets, I think it holds up really well. I mean, if you like Legend of Zelda games, if you can get your hand on this, if you have a GameCube and you can play Star Fox Adventures, I suggest doing it because it's definitely a game worth checking out.
Yeah, you definitely have to approach it as a more of a Zelda game and not really, at least at the start, associate it with Star Fox.
Exactly.
In order to enjoy it.
Sure.
Yeah, I just put it in today, actually, and played it for the first time today. So.
But you enjoyed it, though, right? I mean, it's a good game. It holds up pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew what to expect because I knew it was kind of like an on-foot kind of game.
That's true.
But even when starting out, it seemed so goofy and so off the wall compared to what Star Fox had been that if I was somebody who bought this back in 2002, I think when it came out, I would have been a little bit upset. But then it's weird because at first I was like, this doesn't feel like Star Fox at all. It feels like Zelda with just a Fox character. Even the music, like I got to the dinosaur planet and it felt like I was, I don't know, like hearing a bunch of cavemen sing or something like that. No, it felt like I was watching a dinosaur movie or something. Like the music was so different. Early on, I think in the first level, it was like the Star Fox theme, but it was done with like stringed instruments like Zelda, so it was like so weird. But I think over the course of like the 2-3 hours I played of it today, by the end, I was actually really liking it. So it's a good game.
Yeah.
But for being Star Fox, you have to get used to it.
Sure.
I think everybody wanted just the flying segments for it.
Yeah. I mean, even though they, like I said before, Nintendo never wanted Star Fox to be like this linear flying mission thing. They wanted to have on-foot missions. They wanted to expand the universe. And so Rare tried to do that. I mean, Nintendo and Rare worked together and tried to do that. But one interesting thing, though, like we were talking about before, the story, they've kept like a linear story. I mean, not a linear story, but they've kept their chronology through this whole series. Because even after that, in 2005, February 2005, Star Fox Assault came out, and it's supposed to take place a few years after the Adventures on Dinosaur Planet. So it's just kind of funny how everything that's happened in Star Fox, they've kept the story going. So that's one of the reasons I like Star Fox so much. It's one of the few Nintendo series that do that. Because even things like Legend of Zelda, it kind of has a timeline, but it's sort of like a new adventure each time. This one, it's always kind of been the same team. It's always been the same story that's carried through. And Star Fox Assault was made by Namco. So they decided to team up with, another company this time. This is the first time when two Star Fox games came out on one console. So that, that's never happened before. And they tried to take the strengths of Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Adventures and mash them together. So you still had the flying stuff and you still had the on-foot stuff. But what a lot of people complained about with this game, the game is made up of 10 missions. And of those 10 missions, only 3 missions are complete flight missions. The other 7 are either all on foot or they're partially on foot, partially in the sky. And kind of like the Landmaster in the game, it felt slow and awkward compared to how, zippy and speedy it was in Star Fox 64. So people complained about that. But it was actually a very early third-person shooter because when you're on foot, it became a third-person shooter. And those really weren't big at the time. And so you could actually set it to twin-stick controls. Most games didn't have that. So what they did, you could run around with the left stick and aim with the right stick, and you use the triggers to fire. So it was like a modern third-person shooter. It wasn't as tight, But going back to it, I felt like it still held up really well because we're used to playing games like that now. Back then, it was new. People didn't really know how to control it. They said it controlled clunky. But if you go to those dual stick controls, I felt like it actually still controlled really well. And with this game, it was a brand new story because you already took care of Andros the previous games. Andros is gone. This time you are playing against a new enemy called the Aperoids. They're this part insect, part machine species, and what they're trying to do, they're trying to assimilate all of the species. They're trying to turn everything into Aperoids. They're kind of like taking over the whole galaxy with themselves.
But isn't this just Andros's nephew who's doing it or something?
No. This is a totally different enemy. What this story is about, this story actually, the main enemy is the Aperoids and Pigma. So, because the Aperoids kind of take over Pigma's body and they control him. And so it's this really cool little story because like I said, Andros is gone. They don't really talk about Andros. I mean, they do have Andros' nephew the very first level. I think it's the very first level of the game. After that, because that's just kind of like a throwback to the old titles. But after that, you're fighting these Aperoids the whole time. And it's actually a really enjoyable story because there's actually some pretty cool stuff. Not only are you fighting on foot, but they actually have these missions where Falco will be flying around and you'll hop up on his wing and he'll be flying around. You'll be like shooting enemies and like it's really cool. And Bremy, I know you actually played through Star Fox Assault more recently, right?
I absolutely loved it. It was everything I thought it was going to be. And more.
And you mean that in a good way, right?
Oh yeah, like my only gripe is that it was really short.
Okay.
Like I think I clocked in at about 4 hours. And
yeah, it is. I do agree. It is a very short game.
That's like I wanted more of it. That's only my only problem with it. Like It was fast. It was very arcadey. It was just everything that I thought it was going to be, which is good. And I understand why people didn't like this game. It wasn't really a game that people were expecting. Since people complained about Star Fox Adventures that we'll get a proper Star Fox game where it's only the on-rail shooter aspect of it.
Sure.
And then the clunkiness controls, because those controls, third-person controls, have never really been streamlined at that point.
Yeah.
So
I think if they took this formula now and threw it in Star Fox Zero, which it doesn't look like they're doing now, but if they took this formula now, I think it could be a pretty strong title.
That's what I wanted them to do in Star Fox Zero.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like the Starship Troopers of Star Fox here.
Right,
Bugs attacking.
I mean, it's just this fun space adventure. I mean, and the story's great when they throw in Slippy's dad. Like, it's just, he's a scientist. Like, the whole thing is actually, it's just really cool. And they bring Crystal back, and like, it's great. I love it. And Matt, I don't think you've ever gotten around to playing Star Fox.
No, I'm playing them in order, so I haven't played Assault or Command or Zero, obviously.
Gotcha.
But I mean, it looks like it'd be a lot of fun. From what we're getting here, there's not really a bad Star Fox game. Adventures might be seen as bad because it's like totally different than what people expected, but it's actually seems like a pretty good game. It doesn't seem like there's actually a bad Star Fox game, which is pretty cool thing. Yeah.
Well, I guess it really depends on who you ask, though, because, a lot of people, they really have hatred. They feel like Rare is this great company, and the one bad game they have with Nintendo is Star Fox Adventures. They just hold that against the company, So, and Brand, I don't think you've ever played Star Fox Assault, have you?
I watched you play it once.
That's counts.
That's my expert advice there.
It was fantastic, right?
Oh yeah, looked every bit of the Star Fox that I know and love.
Right.
So, Jamie, within Assault, what is Slippy and Peppy and all them guys doing? Because, like, in Adventures I just started, it's like they're not even flying anymore. Like, one got into, like, computers and one got into, like, managing other stuff. And, so what are they doing in Assault?
They all sort of went off on their own, because after each game, it's supposed to be like 4 or 5 years later, they always break up, they do their own thing. I think, like, Slippy became like a mechanic or something, and like they're all doing these different stuff, and then the Aperoid things happen. They're like, oh my gosh, you have to get back together and save the universe. It's like one of those kind of things.
And by
I think Peppy retired.
Yeah, I think so.
And where is Falco? Because he's not in Adventures. I'm like, what's up?
He's in Assault.
Yes. Yeah, because he leaves the team for a while. Because what happens, like Bremy was saying, Peppy gets old. So he kind of retires, and he becomes like the commander inside the Great Fox. And Crystal, she starts flying around, kind of like takes the place of Peppy. Like they kind of do that in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, but actually, talking about Star Fox 2, Brant, and you actually sounded like a pretty good game. Well, in August 2006, Star Fox Command came out for the DS. This actually just became available on the Wii Virtual Console, so if you haven't played it, you can get it there. Although I would suggest getting it on the DS if possible, because the game is completely controlled with touch controls. Some people complain about that. It kind of like reminds me of Kid Icarus on 3DS a little bit, where you aim and all that stuff with the touchpad. And so being able to do that and play at the same time on the Wii U, it might be a little difficult. I mean, it's still a great game though. And this is the team that when they started making this game, they let them play through Star Fox 2 for inspiration. So a lot of that Star Fox 2 came over. With this game, it's more of like that tactical aspect where before each round, you see a map of the Lilat system, or whatever, and you can and ships are coming at you and rockets are coming at you, and you draw a line for each ship of where you want them to go, and they'll travel along that line. And if they hit an enemy, it goes into kind of like an all range mode battle. And so you're kind of like fighting these all range mode battles, and then eventually you'll hit a boss and you'll take that boss out. But the one thing, so it's pretty much like basic Star Fox combat. It actually, for a DS game, graphically, it actually looks pretty good. And I think that's because they kept them in these small kind of arena battles instead of making it a full-on Star Fox, linear railway kind of path. Yeah. But the thing I really loved about Command was the story. This game, it had 11 different branching paths depending on what you did. There were 9 different endings to this game. So
that's pretty awesome.
Depending on what you did, who you fought, which planet you went to, different things happened. Because on certain parts, Crystal gets mad and she leaves and she'll join like Team Wolf. Like that's one of the storylines. Like all these crazy things happen depending on what you do in the game. So it gives it this great replay value to go back and play it again.
And I saw a couple of the endings. Like one of them, like Falco, like starts his own new Star Fox team, and one of them, like Fox's son, starts a team, and
it's just
so
really
like
cool. Like
things.
There's all this different stuff that happens, which is really really awesome. It gives you this reason to keep going back and playing it again and again. The main story about this one, they already defeat the Aperoids. This is a few years after that. This time, a new deadly race comes out of the Venom Sea. They're called the Angler, and that's the main enemy for this one. So every single game, Andros is gone, so they're
this is the one that's Andros' nephew. Then I'm thinking, like he's the guy who orchestrated it.
Okay, because I was just gonna say at the beginning of Star Fox Assault, you do fight his nephew or whatever. But so that game came out on the Virtual Console. So that game is actually a blast. And Bremy, you said you've actually played this one too, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I have played it, and I remember liking it. Mm-hmm. But I remember, I may be remembering wrong, but I think I had Pigma on my team by the end.
Okay.
So just to reiterate. I can't speak.
Yo, you'll say it eventually. Just spit it out, sir.
Yeah,
I'm the king of jumbling, so
there you go.
Don't worry about that.
It, sir.
But it's really a different experience every time. I don't recall it being short. I'm not sure, but I had a blast with it. It's just been a while. I have vague memories of it right now. I should really get it on the Virtual Console.
Sure.
At some point.
And that might be, like I said, I'm actually thinking about picking it up myself. But I'm trying to think. I think I still actually have my cartridge of that for the DS. So Matt, if you want to play that, swing by and borrow it, because I think I actually have a physical copy of that.
Oh, sweet, definitely.
But yeah, that game is a blast, and just because there's so many endings, you can play through it a lot of times. And that was the last original Star Fox game to come out, because in September of 2011, they released Star Fox 64 3D for the 3DS. As we mentioned before, they went through and they remastered all the graphics. They re-recorded all the audio and voice acting, which is great. Peppy sounds a little bit different, which kind of throws me off. But that was one of the games that sort of helped save the 3DS at that time, because the 3DS didn't have a lot of software. They had that major price cut, if you guys remember that, and they did the Ambassador program and gave out some free games. And with that, they had Star Fox 64 3D and Ocarina of Time 3D. So they started remastering the N64 games for 3DS. And I feel like Star Fox 64 3D, because they remastered it, it brought back this love of Star Fox, reminding people, oh yeah, I do love this series. Because a lot of people, like we were talking about before, they didn't like Adventures, they didn't like Assault, and they didn't even give Command a chance. So they kind of, pushed Star Fox to the back burner. But then when Star Fox 64 3D came out, it gave people a reason to start cheering for this series again. So, and plus they gave a lot of, younger gamers, people that may have missed it in the past, a chance to play through it again. So, I mean, that's definitely a good thing. But, Brant, did you ever own Star Fox 64 3D?
No, I never owned that.
Because I know you had a 3DS, at least for a little while.
For a little while. I had the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Oh, okay.
3DS, but yeah, I never got the Star Fox one. That's one that I would have definitely bought though, just because of the feelings I have for that game. But
sure. What all games do you have in your 3DS, sir? I'm just curious.
Oh, let's see. I had the 3DS Ocarina of Time. I bought the Virtual Console Legend of Zelda game. My favorite Legend of Zelda game.
Oh, the Game Boy.
The Game
Link's
Boy
Awakening.
one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that Link's Awakening?
Yes.
Okay.
That game holds a special place in my heart. I can't remember right now. There was just not many games that I wanted for it. Yeah, I had the Super Mario, the 64 remake one too.
That was on DS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on DS, but I had it for the 3DS.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but
I was just curious.
yeah, there's so many good games out now that everyone with a 3DS, I don't blame you. But for me, something about the 3DS, and this is off topic, but it just feels like I'm holding a toy. I don't like it, And that's just me. It's a good system.
Sure. And a lot of people have had that same, complaint. But Nintendo, like I've said before, I kind of feel like Nintendo is a toy company. That's what they do. They're really good at that. So, I mean, I love my 3DS. I actually have a new Nintendo 3DS, the Monster Hunter one. Love it. It's fantastic. But to get us back on our Star Fox thing, recently at E3, they actually had a really cool Jim Henson Muppets announcement.
Yes.
That was so cool.
Which, it was Miyamoto and Iwata and Reggie, and they're all Muppets, they're hopping around, and they transform into the Star Fox characters. We knew Star Fox was coming. They just showed some blurry screenshots at E3 just said it's all on the way. That's all we knew. But this year they kind of had, all this information exploded out. And so Star Fox Zero is supposed to come out this holiday season. I don't think they gave an actual release date yet, did they? They just said holiday 2015.
Yeah, I think they said holiday.
So, I mean, that's coming out. It's actually, once again, Star Fox 2, they're bringing stuff in. Like what I was mentioning before in Star Fox 2, how it could transform into a walker. They've actually done that. They showed that off in the trailer. That's coming to the game. The Landmaster's back. They actually have this little, almost like a helicopter that can come off, and you can fly it through tight places, to get to, small corridors and things like that. That's pretty cool. One place that people have kind of complained about this new Star Fox, it uses gyro controls, where you see the actual ship on the screen, and on the gamepad, you kind of see like a cockpit view. And so you could be flying one direction and like sort of aiming, your gamepad in a different direction and shooting in a totally different direction. I'm assuming it's going to control kind of like how Splatoon does.
Yeah,
which I really enjoy Splatoon. So I don't know. We'll see how that turns out.
I don't like those controls. Sorry.
I know you don't.
I can't wrap my head around. Can't do it.
You and your tiny brain.
I'm the exact opposite. I love those controls.
I know.
Like Splatoon just controls so well with it.
Absolutely.
That it controls so well with it. In fact, that like I'm gonna give the default control scheme a chance because it just looks so much fun.
Sure. And I'm actually really excited for Star Fox. I mean, when it came out, some people even me especially, I was like kind of, underwhelmed by it a little bit, how it looked graphically. It wasn't what I was expecting. But after watching it a few more times afterwards and sort of getting into it, I'm like, this is Star Fox. I'm really going to enjoy this. And the icing on the cake is they said it was co-developed by Platinum Games. I love Platinum Games. Bayonetta was awesome. Wonderful 101 was awesome. They've Vanquish and all these games we talked about in the past. So if Platinum Games puts their high energy into this game, it's going to be awesome. One thing that actually recently released, not too long ago, In an interview with IGN, they were talking to Miyamoto, and they said, will this have any online play? And he said, as of right now, we don't have anything planned for that. It's just going to have local multiplayer. It's only going to have couch multiplayer. It will not have online. So I don't know if that's going to hurt the game or not. But I guess, Brant, for you, you've been out of the Star Fox series for a while. What would Star Fox have to do? Like, let's just say in an imaginary world, you had a Wii U. What would Star Fox have to do to draw you back in again?
I was sort of picturing this when you were talking about adventures, like have this No Man's Sky sort of deal with it.
Oh, okay.
Like you're up in the atmosphere, you blast out of the, your ship. You have your ships, you have your commands. You can send your guys out to other parts of the galaxy maybe.
Oh, okay.
Fulfill things, gather resources, and then, like you're fighting these cruisers, then you can go down into the atmosphere of the planet, land on the planet, get out, and then from there, has that 3D, Legend of Zelda-like combat system. That would just be awesome. But that's not going to happen, but that would really get me into the game, though, because I'm so pumped for No Man's Sky. But that's a topic for another discussion. Yeah,
sure. well, Matt, what about you, man? What are you excited for Star Fox Zero?
Yeah. Like you said when we first saw it, I was a little underwhelmed graphically, but I watched some of the Nintendo Treehouse afterwards, and the graphics aren't as bad as what people are saying. It's just there's more of a focus on the gameplay. Definitely, it does feel like Star Fox 64, except with all those improvements, the addition of being able to transform into a walker. And I remember last year they were talking to Miyamoto about it, and he's like, I always saw Star Fox as an episodic thing.
Yeah,
see, I'm wondering if because they've always been short, other than maybe adventures. They've always been pretty short, but they have branching paths. What I thought would be cool is if they had it in an episodic form to where you had branching paths of 4 missions or whatever, and there was 11 possible missions, but you did 4 to get to the boss, and then that was episode 1. And then a whole nother section of branching paths of a whole new story as episode 2, and treat it like an actual TV series.
Okay.
Rather than, because with Star Fox, people's understanding based on the past is come and play, and in an hour and a half, you're going to beat it. For the most part.
Sure.
So do that, but have different stories each time, and within each of those different episodes, maybe you have 4 or 5 episodes, have the branching paths, and that would be really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, Bremy, what about you, man? What do you think about Star Fox Zero?
I'm pretty excited for it. It's definitely a game that you'd have to sit down and play to form a really good opinion on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because the gameplay is so obtuse and stuff, but I'm excited for it. Platinum Games is working on it. They make very pretty games.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the footage that we've seen is kind of not finished yet. So once they get that old Nintendo polish on it, I think it'll look really good.
Sure.
Yeah.
And do you think not having online multiplayer, do you think that's going to harm it at all? Because something like Splatoon, that's something that, like you're talking about with Star Fox, you have to sit down with it to play it to really get it. But with Splatoon, online took off like a rocket in that game. People love online in that game. Do you think Star Fox Zero not having online is going to hurt it at all?
I don't know. This day and age, it's kind of a norm to have single player and multiplayer in their games, and most developers kind of put a not very good multiplayer in their game. Like Dead Space 2 or 3 had. Dead Space 2, I think, had that multiplayer that just wasn't good at all, wasn't fun. And, I would rather have them focus mainly on one side, get one side really good, and then have the possibility of multiplayer or another game mode down the line.
Sure. And they can, like what they're doing with Splatoon, they can add it later.
Exactly, and that's kind of where I think where they're kind of taking it. As much as I love Splatoon, that game felt like it wasn't 100% ready to be released, when it got released.
Sure.
There was a lot of stuff that was missing, a lot of guns, maps, game modes. And it just didn't felt like it was ready to be released. I think that's kind of how it is with Star Fox. They're trying to get it out this year because said multiple times that they're going to get it out this year.
Yeah.
And they're going to get it out there, and it's going to be great, but it might have some things missing.
Sure.
And I think multiplayer will be that thing.
Okay.
But they'll bring it back. I think they'll come back with like maybe 4 or 5 months later and say, "Hey, look, we put multiplayer in this game." So,
yeah, see, the good thing is with Nintendo though, whenever they release a quote unquote unfinished game like say Splatoon, it's still really good for what it is.
Yeah.
And there's just like additions that come free that make it even better. Whereas like if you get like, what was it? Like Skyrim, when that came out, that was definitely, that was broken. I mean, so most other games, when they come out and they're unfinished, they're just broken. Like they have the whole, you can get through the entire plot and everything, but like there's so many bugs and glitches. Like with them, they make sure there's no bugs or glitches in what they release, and then they just add stuff to make it better.
Sure. And I mean, honestly, I think Star Fox Zero, I had my doubts when I first saw it, but looking at it, watching more trailers, I love Star Fox. I'm going to love this game. I'm absolutely going to pick it up. It's going to be awesome. But, well, guys, thank you for, listening and joining us on our little walk through the Star Fox series. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Bremy, thank you for joining us, sir, on such short notice.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Hopefully you've had a good time.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, real quick, before we get out of here, let people know, where can they find you? Where can they find what you're writing? Where can they find you on Twitter? Stuff like that.
They can find me at digitalnerdsadvocates.com. I don't have much stuff up right now, and I probably won't have much stuff in the near future, but once everything, like I have to move, I'm moving, and once all that kind of stuff, I'm going to be a constant stream of content. And plus I'm in the works with a show, so
awesome.
that might come to fruition.
Cool.
But you can also find me at Bremy35 on Twitter.
Awesome. And I guess we'll start with you, Matt. Where can people find you, sir?
At cpunkrock07 on Twitter, X Mighty Matt 14X on Xbox, and yep.
Awesome. And don't forget, you can find him on our YouTube channel as well.
Oh, yeah. There. Yeah.
We got your Donkey Kong videos going up, which is awesome. And what's the next series
took
you're going to hop
forever to
into?
get up there, but
what's the next series?
Next one's Super Metroid. Like I said, I've been wanting to get to that.
Sweet.
It just took me forever to get the Donkey Kong up because we were having issues figuring out the overlay and stuff. But yep.
Awesome. And Brant, what about you, sir? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @minusthebrant. That is like Minus the Bear, just one of the best bands on the planet. That's my music second there.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, Minus the Brant. I'm on PSN. You can find me there. Play some Rocket League. I'm still honing my skills at that. Love that game. And just Josh Brant on Facebook. I'll chat with you, and it's all good.
You might not say very nice things, though.
What?
Sir, where else can people find your material that you're writing?
You can find that at the PlayStationEnthusiast.com. Yeah, I'm writing news articles every day. I'm reviewing games, and I actually just wrote a piece on Uncharted 4.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and about how, it's almost like a mission impossible because they are trying to do so much new things with it. So I had fun with that.
Awesome. And you guys know you can find me on Twitter at JamesPlus12. You can find me on Twitch, Jamester0722. That's also where I'm at on Xbox. As I mentioned earlier, I'm actually starting to write news and things like that over at theworkprint.com. So make sure to check that out. We've had Rob on the show previously. That's how I kind of got involved with that. So I've been writing a lot lately on there. Like I said, I've got the Devil's Third story went up. I had a review, or not a review, but a story about Dead Island going up. I actually wrote a piece about Iwata, and remembering what he's done. So I've got quite a few things up on there, so make sure to check that out. For the Life of Gaming podcast, you guys know you can find us on iTunes and the Microsoft MP3 store. So make sure to go on there and rate us, guys. That would be awesome. We're on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Life of Gaming Pod. So make sure to check that out. And we're on Google+. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show. We're going to continue this summer game series, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. And until next time, we are out.
Fallout next time. Check it out.
That's right.
Later, guys.
Later.